So good day, classmates. Today we will be discussing one of the most important parts of the digestive system. It is the stomach. Before we discuss the parts, the anatomical structure, relationship with other organs, neurovascular supply of the stomach, and the disease, first let us define what is the stomach and its function. The stomach is a hollow organ or container that holds food while it is being mixed with stomach enzymes. These enzymes continue the process of breaking down food into a usable form. Cells in the lining of the stomach secrete a strong acid and powerful enzyme that are responsible for the breakdown process. So now let's move on to the anatomy.
Location and description. The stomach is the dilated portion of the alimentary canal. The stomach is situated in the upper part of the abdomen, extending from beneath the left costal margin region into the epigastric and umbilical region. Much of the stomach lies under cover of the lower rib. It is roughly J-shaped and has two openings, the cardiac and pyloric orifices, and two curvatures, the greater and lesser curvatures, and two surfaces, an anterior and a posterior surface. Stomach receives food from esophagus. As food reaches to the end of the esophagus, it enters the stomach through a muscular valve called the lower esophageal sphincter. The stomach secretes acid and enzymes that digest food. The core function of the human stomach is an aid to digestion. The four key components of gastric digestive functions are its function as reservoir, acid secretion, enzyme secretion, and its role in gastrointestinal motility. And its anatomical landmark is that the stomach occupies the left upper quadrant, epigastric, and much of it lies under the cover of the ribs. Its long axis passes downwards and forward to the right and then backward and slightly upward.
At this junction, let us now move on to the parts of the stomach. In the upper portion, we can see the fundus. It is a dome-shaped, which projects upward and to the left of the cardiac orifice. So its principal function is to store gas, which is produced during the digestion. In the lower portion of the fundus, we can see the body. It extends from the level of the cardiac orifice to the level of incisura angularis. If we say incisura angularis, it is a small notch of the stomach located on the lesser curvature near the pyloric end. The body is also the largest and the main part of the stomach. This is where now the food is mixed and starts to break down. We also have here the pyloric antrum. It is commonly known as the gastric antrum. It extends from the incisura angularis to the pylorus. And lastly, we have the pylorus. So it is now the most tubular part of the stomach. It connects stomach to the duodenum, and it's also known as the valve that opens and closes during the digestion. Under the pylorus, we can see the thick muscular wall, which is what we call the pyloric sphincter. And we also have the cavity of the pylorus, which is known as the pyloric canal. Now let's move on to the curvatures of the stomach. As we can see here, we have the lesser curvature. So it forms the right border of the stomach and extends from the cardiac orifice to the pylorus. So it is suspended from the liver by the lesser omentum. And now we also have the greater curvature. So it is much longer than the lesser curvature, and it extends from the left of the cardiac orifice over the dome of the fundus and along the left border of the stomach to the pylorus. And now we have the two openings of the stomach. First is the cardiac orifice. In the cardiac orifice, we can see the esophagus, which enters to the stomach. And for the pyloric orifice, it is formed by the pyloric canal. It is also known as the opening between the stomach and the superior part of the duodenum. So due to the thick circular muscle coat of the stomach, it now forms the pyloric sphincter. So with pyloric sphincter, it is a band of muscle which plays a role of controlling the outflow of the gastric contents into the duodenum. And now let's move on to view relations of stomach to other organs. Anteriorly, we can see the anterior abdominal wall, the left costal margin, the left pleura and lung, the diaphragm, and the left lobe of the liver. And posteriorly, we can see the lesser sac, the diaphragm, the spleen, the left suprarenal gland, the upper part of the left kidney, the splenic artery, the pancreas, and also the transverse mesocolon, as we can see in the picture. And lastly, we have here the superiorly, the esophagus and diaphragm, and the diaphragm is what we can see in the superior.
So when talking about the neurovascular supply of the stomach, the main arterial supply of the stomach comes from the celiac trunk and its branches. So as you can see on the picture, there are curvatures. So the lesser curvature is formed by the right and left gastric arteries, while the greater curvature is formed by the right and left gastro-omental arteries. The veins of the stomach run parallel to the arteries. The right and left gastric veins drain into the hepatic portal vein. The stomach receives innervation from the autonomic nervous system. So, in parasympathetic nerve, its supply arises from the posterior and anterior vagal trunks derived from vagus nerve. Sympathetic nerve supply arises from the T6 to T9 spinal cord segments and passes to the coeliac plexus via the greater splenic nerve. Sa sympathetic nerve din, siya yung nagdadala nung mga transmitting fibers na nagsasend sa utak natin kung may masakit sa katawan natin and different stuffs.
Now we're going to discuss about the physiological significance and function of the stomach. So the stomach's physiological function is structured around creating an environment where the food ingested can be safely acted on by proteolytic enzymes and acidic solutions. So in this figure, as we can see, there is a villi. The villi increases the intestinal absorptive surface area approximately 30-fold and 600-fold. It provides exceptionally efficient absorptive amount of nutrients in the lumen. So it helps with the absorption of the nutrients, as said. There are also enzymes called enterocyte digestive enzyme on the surface for digestion. And also in this figure is a ridge of muscle tissue called rugae lines. So this rugae lines in the stomach. So the stomach muscles contract periodically, churning food to enhance digestion. So yeah, basically it enhances the digestion. Next slide. In humans and many other animals, the stomach is located between the oesophagus and small intestine. As said, it secretes digestive enzymes and gastric acid to aid in food digestion. The pyloric sphincter controls the passage of partially digested food, or also known as chyme, from the stomach into the duodenum, where peristalsis takes over for it to move through the rest of the intestines. So, the pyloric sphincter is in this figure, beside the duodenum, and this pyloric sphincter is a muscular valve that opens up to allow food to pass from the stomach to the small intestine, and from there it goes into the duodenum, where peristalsis takes over for it to move through the rest of the intestines. So peristalsis is a very important process, and we'll know why in a little while. So when certain muscles in the digestive and urinary tracts contract, it is called peristalsis. So peristalsis is a particular wave-like kind of muscle contraction because its purpose is to move solids or liquids along with the tube-like structures of the digestive and urinary tracts. And obviously, Without this action, foods will get trapped inside the body. And those are the important significances and function of the stomach. Thank you.
So good day, classmates. Moving on to the disease of the stomach, we have chosen peptic ulcer. When talking about peptic ulcer, naalala ko lagi is when you are not able to eat at yung kung anong nakasanayan yung oras. It actually makes sense because prolonged periods without food tend to lead to acid reflux, gastritis, and stomach acid. Excessive amounts of digestive juices might erode your intestinal lining and cause ulcers. So it's not just because of bacteria in your stomach, but it's also because of fasting. So what are peptic ulcers? Peptic ulcers are open sores that develop on the inside lining of your stomach and the upper portion of your small intestine. So the most common symptom of a peptic ulcer is stomach pain. It occurs when acid in the digestive tract eats away the inner surfaces of the stomach or the small intestine. The acid can create a painful open sore that may bleed. The digestive tract is coated with a mucus layer that normally protects against acid. But if the amount of acid is increased or the amount of mucus is decreased, you could develop an ulcer. So what are the main causes of peptic ulcer? First is bacterium. Helicobacter pylori bacteria commonly live in the mucus layer that covers and protects tissue that line the stomach and the small intestine. Often, the H. pylori bacterium causes no problems, but it can cause inflammation of the stomach's inner layer, producing an ulcer. Also, one of the causes is regular use of certain pain relievers. What are the risk factors? Sino yung mga taong mas may tendency to have stomach ulcer? People who smoke, drink alcohol, have untreated stress, and people who often eat spicy foods. So what are the symptoms of peptic ulcers? First is dull pain in the stomach, weight loss, not wanting to eat because of pain, nausea or vomiting, bloating, feeling easily full, and burping or acid reflux. Also heartburn, which is a burning sensation in the chest. So what are the things we can do to prevent peptic ulcer? First is use caution with pain relievers and protect yourself from infections. So if ever, sana hindi naman, you have peptic ulcer, what is the maintenance or medicine that you use? The most common remedy is the combination of antibiotic drugs to kill the H. pylori bacteria and medications to get rid of your acid on the stomach. This typically includes proton pump inhibitors like Acefex or Nexium and antibiotics. The doctor can also give you drug called a protectant which coats ulcers to protect them from stomach acid.